Today's episode is brought to you by Waxit. Transform your car care game with Waxit and make it easier to maintain in the long run. From starter kits to professional cleaning tools, Waxit can help anyone who loves their car to keep it nice and crisp. Right now, you can get 10% off all of your purchases if you use the link in the episode description, and you can find it on any of our social media channels. Waxit, lift your car care game today. All right, on to the show. The rain came, the D's came, and the Bombers didn't. It's our fourth loss in the past 6 games. This is the Sash, definitely not the official podcast of the Essendon Football Club. I'm your host, Rob, here with you for the Monday review show. Joining me in studio is Jesse. Hello, mate.
Hi.
How are you?
Not great.
Not great.
Not great. I forget how miserable being an Essendon supporter is in July. You step out of the house and it's dark, and you get home from work and it's dark, it's raining, and you don't have wins to celebrate regularly. We're back in July football and I'm not happy.
Fair enough. And Ryan's here. Hello, mate.
Hey, Rob, how you doing today?
Look, I'm similar vein to Jesse. I'm trying to contain my rage, but I'm annoyed and I'm frustrated and I'm concerned. I think concern is my biggest emotion at the moment.
Yeah, it's the type of loss that makes you really want climate change to hurry up and just finish us off.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I can't stand this.
Yeah. I was talking with Kingo, who comes on the show occasionally on Saturday night, about if maybe we could do a MAGA-style takeover of the MCC so we can put a roof on the stadium for good, and then we can have indoor football forever in Victoria from here on in. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen. But if anyone is on the MCC board and goes for Essendon, put a roof on it. Why not? What a great idea. Let's put a roof on it. But yeah, I guess thoughts on the game overall before we start dissecting it, Jess? What's your initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts, which is not really up to it at this point in time. We haven't been for a while. I did mention a few weeks back that I felt our pressure has been off since really a little while back now, since sort of round 7-8. That edge, as we've described to have, doesn't really look like it's a part of our game anymore. We've moved to this contested clearance, moved from a clearance contested style of game to an uncontested transition, back half. Well, I guess trying to get that meters gained and lock it in the forward half. And yeah, it was just one of those games where, we've been the hunted for a while now, and it really does seem that way. A lot of teams have. It's hard I'm not sure what to determine it as. It's a combination of us not performing, but I also feel I'm torn because I do feel like a lot of teams have stepped up playing us, and that's just the reality of being high on the ladder. Teams lower than you see it as a pretty big opportunity to make a statement, and I feel like there's been quite a number of teams, the Eagles and other teams, that have played really well against us, but you do only let a team play as well as you allow them to play against you, and it really just looked like Melbourne wanted it more over the weekend. We played the conditions really poorly again. Much of the game was lost at the selection table, and we just really need to step up our pressure. And I think there's a lot of players that have microscopes over them that have been underperforming over the last 6 to 5 weeks. It's not a lot of people saying, "Oh, don't get carried away with, swinging the axe," but it is 4 out of the last 6. And yeah, we'll talk about those players in some time, but yeah, I think it's really just as simple as not doing the necessities in football. And we had, our ground ball percentage was really low over the weekend. Our contested ball, we got smashed in clearance, and you just can't win wet weather football if that's the way that you're playing. So I think that sums it up. Yeah,
I mean, it's sort of, pressure's good one week and then it's just down the next week, and it's obviously what we want to get to is that we can deliver it week in, week out. And at least in that first half of the season, seemed like it was pretty consistent. But now we're into the doldrums, we're into the dark part of the year where it's raining, it's dark, no one wants to go outside, and there is that ghost of 2023 sort of looming over us going, oh, maybe it's going to start to fall apart again.
I think the Collingwood game really paved over some of the big cracks that we have in our team and was a bit of a false dawn for us as a supporting group. It really was a poor performance by Collingwood, actually their lowest pressure rating game under McRae. And that was something that was really evident to me when I was watching the game last week. I had the pleasure of obviously watching the replay, so you can analyse it a bit more. But Collingwood's lack of pressure was very evident, and it was still a really close game. You know, they're out of the 8 now, and it's going to be really tricky for them to make finals. And as I said, that's their lowest rated game under Finn McRae and not Finn McRae, Craig McRae. And yeah, it's just we aren't stepping up. Like when teams bring finals like pressure against us, we just don't have the leadership and we don't have the capacity to deal with that. And we are still a fairly young side, but there are still a number of leaders in our team that aren't standing up in conditions and being, you know, the players that we want them to be and calming the storm. And it does have that word you mentioned before. There are major concerns for me that if we go into September, we are going to be faced with that type of pressure. And every single time we've had that pressure this year, we've lost very convincingly, and it's been to good sides.
Yeah, I mean, you're sort of taking the words out of my mouth, and that's how I feel about it right now, because I look at the fixture, I look at where we're playing our games, who we're playing against, and I can see us very easily winning 3 of our last 6, potentially even 4. I think that's very possible. I think it's very possible that we do play in week 1 of September. But coming off a game like that and seeing, you know, a half of football or a quarter of football where the opposition, you know, Melbourne, they lifted the pressure gauge on the level and we just weren't able to hack it for a multitude of reasons. And we can harp on about the weather at some point. But yeah, there is just that concern of mine that when the going gets tough, there are still some players on the side who either through inexperience or just not being at that level just kind of fade away. And yeah, I'm very concerned. What was your, I guess, initial sort of reactions to it all, Ryan?
Yeah, it was the initial reactions were nonsensical to begin with, but I've developed a sense of perspective, and I have tried to take into perspective the tightness of the season and not acknowledging that at least 12 or 13 teams are still in the hunt. But I really liked what you said there, Jesse, and it really kind of what I was thinking over the weekend was I knew we weren't the finished product, and I don't think anyone thought we were at this point in time. I think my biggest concern is we're not as complete as I thought we were, or at least I think I hoped we were. I think I kind of guess I was looking at sort of like the completion bar to when we were going to get to that, you know, competitive and that product that I think could contend. You know, you see that loading bar. I think the bar's a little bit shorter than I expected. I thought maybe 40, 45% there, maybe even 50, 55. I think we're a little bit further down. And I think you were talking about, you know, swinging the axe potentially. And I think that's been, it's been interesting that we haven't yet. And it's kind of what all North Melbourne supporters would tell you about Brad Scott, is that he was very reluctant to make changes in his personnel. He always afforded more opportunities to the older guys. And I mean, you know, Dyson Heppel's selection this week definitely suggests that he's continued down that path. I would like to see them maybe freshen things up because it does look quite stale. And I guess another thing that I thought about, and you reminded me when you were talking about the game style that we had potentially at the start of the year, Jesse, and how we are now. I still don't know what our brand is. I know what they think they want it to be, but, you know, I saw a lot of long kicks with a prayer. I saw a lot of, you know, unnecessary over-possessing of the ball. And, you know, Brad Scott said after the game that we had a plan going in and they simply didn't execute. Well, I'd like to know what that plan was, because it felt like we were trying to play dry weather football in wet weather and certainly weren't able to adapt, much like Melbourne wasn't. And it's interesting that everyone thought Melbourne had made mistakes at the selection table during the week, not getting a ruckman. It turned out to be one of the best decisions they made. So, I think sadly, I think we're much further away from a premiership than I thought we were. And that brings in the dark mood.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was ever, you know, thinking about the P word to be honest.
No.
I'm very much of just I just want to, I think like a lot of people, I just want to get the monkey off the back. I just want to get that elusive finals win out of the way, and then we can get rolled by 10 goals in a semi. I don't really care. I'm happy just to get the monkey off the back and then build off that for the next year. That's kind of what I want. But I guess if we're going back to the game, like, you know, if you listen, like both Brad Scott and even Ben Jacobs, if you watch the video on the club website,
I did watch that.
You could see both of them were clearly disappointed that players weren't doing what they were instructed, which is, you know, an interesting thing. Because in times gone past, we've had losses and they've come back and gone, oh no, they tried to do what we wanted to do, it just didn't work out. But this is the scenario where you could hear both of them basically say, no, people didn't do what we instructed. Now, was the instruction, like you said, to go long? Was the instruction to over handball? We don't know which one it was. I like to assume it was more direct style. Which is not how we usually play. Like, unless we get a really great clearance out of the middle and we're streaming out, generally we like to get a fair few hands on the ball before it goes inside 50. But I don't know, it just felt like a lot of bad habits were creeping back into the game. And then even at times, like, it felt like we'd get the ball in the middle of the ground, whether it was in mark or a free kick or whatever, and then we either took way too long and then we launched it to no one, or we didn't think about it and we launched it to no one. And everyone was culpable, from the guys who you consider our best users like Zach Merritt all the way down to people who'd say were our worst users. All of them did it. There was that one on the wing where Peter Wright, one of his few possessions in the game, he kicked it and Merritt took a mark. I can't remember which Melbourne player was there. Melbourne player stood in the mark, and I don't know if Zach Merritt is afraid of getting away from the mark, but he took one step back and then onto his beautiful left foot and he kicked it out in the full. And I remember seeing it at the time, because like I was sitting right on that side of the ground. I'm like, you could have taken 4 steps back and you would have had enough space to just go cleanly over his head into the forward 50, and then there might have been a contest. Later in the game, there was one where Dersma had the ball, felt like he took 20 seconds with it, and then he just bombed it over the heads of all of our forwards who pushed to one side of the ground, and one of the Melbourne defenders who was guarding the fat side was like, oh, cool, uncontested mark. And I don't know, it felt like we really lost our heads there in a moment. And yeah, you know, if there's a drizzle come September, assuming we're there, confidence is very low. Very, very low, because there was zero ability to adapt to the weather at all. Yeah,
and I mean, I'm going to start with my first bad.
Go for it.
And that's Sam Draper. He had a really big opportunity to stamp his authority on the game, and in a lot of ways really stamp his foot down in the competition as the number one ruck for us and a presence. And you know that video obviously that was sent in today. Was it you that sent it in, right?
Yeah, James did.
James sent it in. And
so it's for context, it's Jeff White, who used to play for the D's, does these videos on Twitter where he analyses, you know, generally just ruck contests and clearance and stoppages. He did a really good one when we got absolutely murdered by the Port, and explained what they did. And then he did the exact same thing here, and you just show how Melbourne just gobbled up everything Draper did.
Yeah, and this is something that we've discussed in length already, and it's Draper's inability to creatively or even non-creatively just hit out to advantage. And I'm not sure what the directive by the coaches is.
By Todd Goldstein, who's his coach,
Yeah. But I would say based on how we were setting up at stoppage, part of what I would assume Ben Jacobs and Scott were talking about is how it was probably not directed by Draper or to Draper to hit forward of the stoppage every single time. And you know, he had ascendancy. I would say Jacob Van Rooyen did a very good job in the second half to even the contest, but Draper looked tired. The fact that he couldn't jump over the top of Van Rooyen was concerning for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a massively missed opportunity. We had a really good opportunity to have ascendancy in that part of the ground, and I knew it. I said it to myself before the game. I said it to a few of my Essendon mates and non-Essendon mates, just watch Draper botch this opportunity at taking the game with the scruff of his hands. And look, he's a young ruckman. I think a lot of us forget that, but it wasn't good enough. And Yeah, I'm not really sure where I stand with Draper at the moment and where I stand with any of our rucks. I'm just so sick and tired of, you look back at so many of our losses this year and they were lost in the ruck, whether it be a ruckman beating us or our ruckman losing the game for us over the weekend. And I know that might be harsh to say, and I hate when all the football critics say, well, it makes you question how effective, hit outs are. Well, they're super effective if you actually tap it to the players. But the problem that we have with Draper at the moment is that he's ineffective when he gets the ball. 5 of his 10 disposals were clangers. So more than half of his disposals were ineffective. And a clanger's worse than an ineffective disposal. I don't even know where they rate that in ineffective, but that would be the most ineffective a disposal can be.
Turnover,
And just not effective with his tap work. So
like his marking around the ground's been okay, but I don't know. You just would have thought at one point in the game they would have sort of cottoned on the fact that it wasn't working. And I think I said to you before the start of the show that if it wasn't going directly down, Rivers or Clayton Oliver's throat or whoever was standing on that other side, when he actually hit it over them and it came to the half forwards pressing up, the half forwards could get the ball. So surely there had to be a point in the game, whether it be quarter time, half time, or the 3/4 time. I mean, by 3/4 time was almost too late before they blew it out completely. But there's got to be a conversation there. It's like, hey, let's just start looking for our guys a bit more, because the half forwards weren't winning it, the mids weren't winning it, and you weren't getting any ascendancy. Yeah,
the hardest thing to deal with Sam Draper is that, for all of the amazing things he can do, this is not a knock on him as a person, but as a footballer, he's highly unintelligent. He doesn't have a natural football brain, and probably because he came to this sport late, he doesn't have that nous that the Gorns of the competition do. And if he was
Goldstein, to be honest,
Goldstein. I think the hardest thing as well to deal with is the fact he is a great mark and he does get it, but as soon as he gets it, it's the worst thing that could possibly happen because he doesn't know what to do with it. I don't know if he has that intelligence to make that right decision. He's always looking for the handball, and if he can't get that, he's bombing it long to a contest. And I don't know whether our forward line doesn't set up well for him, but it is turning into those massive clangers, and it is really hard to watch. You were saying about his disposals. He went 20 disposals at 55%, and that's just going to kill us, and it has been, So if there was a way to merge Draper and Goldstein together, put Goldstein's brain into Draper.
Teach him the fusion technique.
Can we not? I mean, it's probably, it's probably asking a lot from, it's probably asking a lot from the sports science department, but it is
Does Dr. Frankenstein work at the hangar by any chance? Yeah.
Be a weird looking bloke.
Yeah.
Goldie with a mullet.
Yeah, Goldie with a mullet. Wouldn't mind that. Yeah. I watched some of the replay today, and there is a moments where he when it was, bucketing rain, and sometimes it's you just got to get it forward, but sometimes there were times where he actually just got it and slapped it on his boot, but then it just still went to a Melbourne defender. They just read it way better than us.
They were pinpoint passes.
Yeah, pinpoint passes to D's defenders. And then they also were reading that he was going to try and take it out of the ruck, because it's often what you do is when you've got the undersized guy there, so he would push Petty or Van Rooyen out of the way, get it, and then he'd turn, and there was a midfielder there ready to tackle him straight away, because they just knew it. And they clearly would have spent a fair bit of time this week working around that fact, and they completely outplayed us and completely outcoached us in that area. We didn't have a plan B because Peter had a stinker as well, and he got subbed off, so we didn't really have another option to bring in there. We just didn't get much ascendancy. So.
That was probably the only thing that Brad Scott did on the night that I thought was surprising, was that he actually made that call to bring the sub in much earlier than he typically does. Yeah. I mean, you could see from very early on that Peter Wright was going to struggle. I mean, he struggles in the dry. When it was wet, he was just, it was almost like a pointless exercise. Can we continue with the bads?
Yeah, go.
Is that okay?
Yeah, go. What do you got?
I've got to start with the guy, and this is, we've spoken about him a couple of times, but it's the bin time for Archie Perkins. This is the thing that really put the exclamation mark on for me. This is the type of game he should be excelling at. This is the type of weather that he should be playing really well in. He's sort of that small mid-size under player. He had 10 disposals, 1 behind. 6 tackles isn't bad, but I kind of wonder how they measure that, because I felt like nearly half of our tackles on the night were just poor attempts, and I always wonder whether the attempts actually get counted. But he had the third lowest disposals of the team. The only two guys behind him were Nick Hind, who was subbed on, and Peter Wright, who was subbed off.
Yeah.
He's followed up a bad 6 weeks of football, maybe even 8 weeks of football. I felt like this was the point where he gave us, I mean, and a lot of guys gave us nothing, but, you know, I thought his size, his sort of profile, this would have been the type of game where maybe he could have gone a bit dirty and fought to get that ball forward, you know. But unfortunately,
he looks unfit.
Yeah.
He looks off the pace.
Yeah.
And him and a lot of players look very off the pace over the weekend. But I've said that a few weeks back now, that he doesn't seem as if he's covering the ground as well as what he would.
Since that injury, he's never really looked that great this season.
It does look like he's really struggled to come back. And, you know, a massive concern for me, it was just the work rate of the two teams. As I said, you know, the disappointment over the weekend was that this is just a recurring nightmare for Essendon supporters where every opportunity we have to step up and make a statement, we don't do it, and we lose really unconvincingly in a way that makes us feel like we're all the way back to square one with a lot of our players. And the most damning statistic in there was that Melbourne ran 8 more kilometres than we did over the weekend.
Yeah,
and that's a very damning statistic.
Probably all of those were Red Langdon. So
yeah. It's funny though that, you know, after listening to the debrief conversation that you had on Thursday, how who's your mate that does
Adrian.
Adrian was talking about how he doesn't understand the two tall wingers, and he thought,
well, in that conditions, he was absolutely correct.
and we got destroyed on the wings.
Yeah. I think just to go back to, like, to finish off your point, like, you know, we have that feeling like, oh, we've gone back to square one, but I feel like this game, when we get to round 23 or 24, whatever the last round is, when we get to that point, I think we're going to look at this game as either a turning point where we cleaned up our act and we had some good wins heading into hopefully finals, or that this was the beginning of the end. Because this is like, we've gone, you know, win, loss, win, loss. I'm pretty sure in the last few, haven't we? Yeah. Loss, win, loss, win. Anyway, and we'll look at this and go, okay, we fixed some things up. Maybe some people had a spell. Maybe some guys, you know, came back on the side, whatever we did, and then had a couple of good wins at home, at the Fortress, under the roof. And then, you know, we hit the finals with a little bit of confidence, or we're going to be sitting here at our funeral pod after a Sydney loss or a Brisbane loss, talking about how this was the beginning of the end, I think.
It's amazing every year. It feels like we're doing this same, you know, the redemption cycle you guys always spoke about. It feels like this is the new one where everything's going great, and then we have a couple of hiccups. The weirdest thing now is that we're doing this and it's not a fault of injury. In years gone by, it's, oh, well, Ridley's gone down and, you know, Parrish obviously he's down now, but, you know, you'd have this slew of injuries. But right now, this is nearly our best side and we're still having these sort of issues. I think the other thing that I wanted to mention was, I thought going into this block of 3 games, I thought this was the one we were going to win out of all 3, because I thought 3 games at the MCG, we'll understand it better, we'll be prepared. This was probably, I mean, it's up there with the Geelong loss, but Geelong was particularly disappointing. But, yeah, sorry, I'm just pretty miserable.
Blip or dip? I mean, I'm on dip.
You're
now.
You're eating dip.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to when you look at what we've done. Like, a blip is 1 or 2 losses, and we've had 4 out of the last 6.
Yeah. Do you remember our conversation a few weeks ago about our night percentage wins at the MCG?
Yes.
And what is it? 31%. So
1 out of 3.
1 out of 3. That's
the stats don't lie.
The stats don't lie. Back to just quickly on Archie Perkins before we move on. It feels like he's definitely he's been given enough opportunity to find form in the seniors. I think you just have to go, all right, go find some form in the VFL and then come back. Because I think he's been given that opportunity, and there's probably some other players in that conversation as well.
Particularly given the form of some players in the VFL over the weekend.
Yeah. And I guess maybe if we want to talk about selection real quickly, you know, hindsight's 2020. We all know that. Captain Hindsight over here. So bring out Laverty, who is a tough contested player. A lot of shortcomings other areas, but he's physical and tough.
Not recently though. He's been playing very good football.
Yeah,
recently.
I know, but like I think like sometimes his ball use can be a bit less down. But I'm talking about his physicality, particularly, is really, really good. Like watching that game at times, I was like, gee, wouldn't he be nice on Jake Melksham right now, or Turner, or one of these other guys? And then we spoke about the wingers. Like, it looked really good against Collingwood. But it feels like it's such a luxury thing to go, we're going to play these two really big guys, and yeah, they're athletic. We're going to play them on the wing. It feels like a real luxury to do that. Whereas I don't feel like we are strong enough in other areas to have guys have that in every single week. Maybe it works at Marvel. Maybe it works when you have a team with bring no pressure like the Pies. But I think some weeks you've just got to make a tough call. If we are going horses for courses, as Brad likes to say, and they're actually picking a team to win every single week, then there's going to be some weeks that one of them doesn't play.
Such a bullshit statement.
Yeah, I know, but because either that's what we're doing, or he's gone, this is my young group who I'm going to take forward, and I'm just going to play them. In which case, you say that that's what we're doing, and then we go, all right, these are the guys we're going to build with, and I feel like that's sort of what we're doing, but yeah, it just doesn't. Like it, I was concerned about it weeks ago. I said a couple weeks ago, I was like, I'm worried about these guys, like this kind of team on the G. And then obviously it looked good against Collingwood. I was like, maybe it can work. And then it's looked terrible this week. And assuming that they both play this weekend, I'm very confident that we're going to win on Friday night. I'm very confident that we'll win. But does it give me confidence for September? Absolutely not.
I mean, the issue is that I understand and I back how Scott has actually played a lot of our younger players this year, but, also in saying that there's not huge selection pressure on some of their roles with senior players playing in the VFL. We've got a very young list, particularly in the VFL, so he's not really left with a huge amount of choice, but there are players that are completely uncompetitive, and Nick Cox has been competitive throughout periods this year, but has been completely uncompetitive. Some of his efforts over the weekend were absolutely abysmal. And the same with Archie Perkins. Both those players, the same draft, they're young and they need to be taught a lesson. I mean, if Brad's serious about chase pressure, defensive acts, contested football, both of those players, Perkins had some tackles over the weekend, but they just weren't competitive. And this brings me to the Nick Martin conversation again. And we've been talking about Nick's position and where he's best suited. And
nothing like an Essendon loss to give Nick Martin a bag of goals, isn't it?
Every time.
Every time, right? But he is our best or second best winger in the team. Yeah. He played on the wing in the last quarter, absolutely towed Langdon and had 3 goals and 9 disposals. I mean, we, from a selection point of view, got it wrong. I realise that, but Dersma and Martin should be playing on our wings. And if you want to throw a rotation in there being Harry Jones or horses for courses under the lid, yeah, I can understand under the lid at Marvel you might play Harry Jones on the wing, but Nick Martin, had, the highest rated season as a winger in his first 12 games last year, according to Champion Data, and that's his first ever year on the wing, and they've decided to move him around this year. He was awesome on the weekend, a massive good for me, obviously a little bit too little too late, but I'm sick of this discussion and I've made my mind up on it. He needs to play on the wing, and I understand situationally in games you might move him around, but yeah, Dersma and Martin should be our wingers.
I'm okay with one of those two, Cox or Jones being there, but I don't know. I'm more and more thinking you can't have both of them there. Like it just, I don't know. I don't think it works. And like I'm probably the chairman of the Nick Cox fan club. Like I love Coxie. I love Cock. hey. He just really struggled for mine on the weekend, and I think he's done some good things with limited touches of the ball. And there's signs. There's all the signs there, but sometimes science isn't enough. Sometimes you just need to go and just have a bit of form. And again, this is that conversation that is there just a group of young players that we're just going to go, no, we're going to pump 50 games into you. That's fine. Or are we trying to win something this season, and in which case we need to make some changes?
I think the most concerning thing for Nick Cox over the weekend was he had 12 disposals at 50% efficiency, and that's just not going to cut it. And the other thing that I really broke down was outside of the third quarter, he had 3 disposals in the first, 1 in the second, and 1 in the fourth. It was the third quarter where he had 7, where that actually almost pumped it up. He really... That's nearly like not even being on the field. You know, that is just brutal. And, you know, Jesse, you spoke about the wings, and I couldn't agree more. I think, you know, when I was watching the game, I thought Xavier Dersma was one of our harder workers on the night, and his efficiency wasn't sensational. But, you know, I thought 9 marks in sloppy conditions and 2 goals was a great return. And and I was looking at, you know, Nick Martin with his 26, 9 marks and 4 goals at 85%. I mean, that's just hot. And the idea that, you know, of the last 5 goals we scored in the game, 3 of them were his. Every time he goes forward, he does something exciting, and he can really lift us as a team. I think that at the start of the year, everyone had him in this sort of Dacos sort of mold. But again, I kind of wish we would just let him be the player that he's showing us that he's most authentically as, which is that winger who can move forward and be that sort of wild card going forward that I don't think many opposition teams have the capacity to man up on, particularly when he moves in at the speed he does and takes a ball at 40 or 30 metres out. He's actually really quite electric, and it is frustrating. And I personally think that his impact down in the his impact on the half-back line has actually been a negative for Mason Redmond, because I don't think Mason Redmond has nearly been the player this year with Martin taking a lot of his, I guess you could say, a lot of the ball that he would have probably had. He's just felt quite bit stale this year, Redmond, and I think that has something to do with Martin's impact down there.
Yeah, I think he's got more of a defensive job to let Martin be the freewheeler. Yeah, it's a hard one, because you go from last week thinking, oh, wow, the team looks really settled. And this week you're like, no, maybe it doesn't seem so settled. Yeah, I mean, on the selection one as well, like, again, hindsight, you know, last year when we beat them in Gather Round and I was there, I thought one of our best players that day was Will Setterfield, because he went and played on Clayton Oliver. Clayton Oliver had no impact until 3-quarter time, and then had 20 junk time disposals when the game was done in the last quarter. And, you know, again, hindsight, sitting there in the rain, watching that game, I was like, wouldn't it nice to have a big body Will Setterfield just in that mix there? Because Caldwell played a really good game, I thought, tried his heart out. Durham had a crack but didn't do much. Dylan Shield got a lot of the ball but didn't seem to have a massive impact. But just...
It was an old school Shield game.
Yeah, but I don't know, I think it was just a tough, contested D's midfield group, and that's been their brand for 6 years, however long it's been. They've been a decent side, and yeah, I think we just kind of got found wanting at times for a few of those. The other thing I had a fair issue with, and I think both of these guys have been, I guess, down for a few weeks, but our 2 half forwards, our small half forwards, both
I was hoping you were going to say
Guelphy and Gresham.
Yeah,
looking back at the replay today, Gresham probably laid a few more tackles, did a little bit more, but neither was electric in any sense. Obviously, we're not getting goals out of them. If you're not getting goals out of them, the pressure's going to be pretty good. But yeah, looking at their form the last few weeks, yeah, I sort of go, well, are they gamed enough to take someone out? Like, I know Menzies kicked a couple of goals on the weekend. Like, I mean, I know the Davey boys are popular to some, but unpopular to others. Like, are they warranted another crack in this side? Because on the format of those guys, I think their spot's definitely up for grabs at the moment. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, mentioning the VFL form, I actually do have the Essendon VFL side actually put a few up, and Menzies, you're right, he had 3 goals, 3 clearances, 12 disposals. Jaden Davey had 12 disposals and 3 goals. And then the one that's really quite interesting, and I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled the pin on this one, was Hobbsy had 30 disposals, 11 tackles, and 7 clearances.
It's massive.
Wasn't that to 3-quarter time as well? And then they
that's the full result, I think.
But I think they pulled him off at 3-quarter time.
So it kind of tells you, like, man, you know, that's the type of game we've been hoping he'd have in the twos. And I think going back to your point about Gresham and Guelphy, this is the game that really they needed to step up, because the talls weren't going to be able to do what they normally can. It's the smalls where they're supposed to be at their best in these conditions. So it was devastating. And, you know, Gresham only had 15 touches at 67% efficiency. So, we really needed them to lift, and that's just another negative on the night.
Yeah, I mean, it's intriguing because the way that they coached the half forwards to play didn't really actually give them much opportunity in the smalls. They instructed us to leave the forward line very open for our keys, and I'm not sure why. That's just poor coaching in wet weather football to not. I'd be instructing a Guelphy to be running right next to Langford the entire game.
Yeah.
Or Gresham run next to Caddy the entire game and be at his feet, clear the space for him and just be like, you're almost tagging Caddy because you're going to get the ground ball because he's not going to mark it 80% of the time because of the wet weather conditions. But they were getting the half forwards to roll up into the contest because we were losing the centre clearance and we were losing the stoppage, which is a fault of our midfielders. It's a fault of our ruckmen. And the cascading effect of that is that it interrupts the forward line structure. But the issue was that neither of them had really any impact whatsoever rolling up to stoppage. The opposite was to be said about Melbourne. Like a lot of Melbourne's outside players, their half backs, their half forwards were really impacting stoppage really, really well. Yeah. But we were rolling up. They were rolling up as you do in wet weather footy, and it becomes, a bit of a mosh pit. But
funnily, sorry to cut you off, but funnily, it almost was a reverse of last year's fixture against them, where we were the ones who were getting people out the back all the time, where in this case it was them constantly getting people up the back, and their defense sucked us in, and that's what happened. Same as what happened last year, but it was almost the inverse. But yeah, you're right. Their mid to small players just did so much damage, and we got very little out of ours.
And it bows questions about what we're doing with our forward line. It hasn't been working for a number of weeks. It's been completely dysfunctional. We're way too tall. I'm sorry, but we have to make some tough decisions when it comes to selection, and you can't play Peter Wright, you can't play Caddy, Stringer and Langford all in the same forward line. I even say playing three of them is almost too tall at times. Yeah. With the way that we're structuring up at the moment, particularly if you've got, a Perkins at half forward, you've got a Gresham at half forward, and then you've got, a Guelphy rolling through there as well. I mean, we don't have... When was the last time we played a small as a forward pocket? I can't honestly remember. It would have to be, and I stand by this. Look at the way that we set up against Collingwood on Anzac Day, and that is the best forward line that we set up that we've had all year. We had Hobbs at half forward, we had Davey and Menzies, and then we had Langford and Stringer playing because there was no Caddy playing, and we looked good. We looked like we were retaining the ball in our forward line. Guelph was still injured, in fairness to him, but we're trying to play an unconventional forward line, and the reason why conventional forward lines usually structure up with two small forward pockets and at least one half forward that's a small.
Wright did play on Anzac Day, by the way.
Wright did play?
Yeah, but it was...
that was his first game back.
That was his first game back. Yeah, so Wright did play, but you're right. We did have some genuine smalls playing.
So far, it's just right now. It feels really one-dimensional for what we're giving out, because they know we're going to go long and we're going for the high mark, and no one, as to your point, no one is waiting at the foot. I mean, the amount of times I'm sitting watching on TV, just going, there's no one at the foot. There's no one at the fall,
and there's no pressure either.
Yeah.
And that's really concerning for me, is that we're trying to play this style of football where we're creating this wall, but as we would know, we don't have the ability with kickers in our team to hit players the way that we would like. So if the ball more than 80% of the time is hitting the deck, why do we not have small forwards that are able to get to the bounce of the ball, retain it, or put on a tackle and some pressure? Teams are walking the ball out of our back line, out of our forward line now. Yeah, we're setting up well so that when they kick it out, maybe at the halfway line, we're intercepting it. But I'd like to see us create some more forward stoppages. I'd like for us to see some pressure on the ball. And I understand people don't like, Alwyn Davey, but the perceived pressure that he can present, and someone like Menzies, we're lacking that chase pressure in our forward half that we had in the start of the year, and I think that's a big part of why our pressure rating is just not as high, is because we've got these lumberjacks that are running around, and there's no way that these camels can chase down
the old redwoods.
Look, it's a bad for me. It's a coaching error. We need to change things up.
We also just defend better on a smaller ground.
Yeah.
We defend better under the roof because it's a little bit smaller, not crazy small, but it's a little bit smaller, a little bit tighter, and there's just that extra few meters of space that you get on the G, and we got taught a lesson by an MCG resident on how to play that ground because they defended it like it was a tiny little residential ground, you'd see in the suburbs. Whereas when we tried to defend it, there is, the M1 freeway just through the middle for them to get on,
You can see why the club is pushing to play more games at the G, not only because obviously the capacity is higher so they can get more money from the crowd, but if we are going to be one of those legitimate contenders, we're going to have to figure out how to start winning there.
There's no finals at Marvel.
We're just going to have to figure it out. But to your point, Jesse, not only do we lack that pressure, we just look fundamentally slow. Particularly, there's no pressure in the forward line. There's that chase you were talking about. I think you're so right about Alwyn Davey and the Menzies. Their whole job, if they can't kick, well, they better bloody be tackling guys. And I think that's the reason why I think Menzies went out of favour, because he wasn't bringing that pressure. But I think at their best, that's exactly what they bring, that perceived pressure, and then eventually the tackles. But is it okay if we change the selection discussion to the other end of the ground? And I've got a big bad, if that's okay.
Shoot.
The Laverty-Heppel situation. It's impossible not to really delve into the problem that we have there, in that it's just, it didn't cost us the game, but it was an element. Laverty's he might have his flaws, but he is a bbit of a monster at the contest. He'll make you earn it. I feel that Dyson Heppel, despite being the servant that everyone likes to call him, his disposal efficiency was fine. It was 85%. But
he coughed up 2 direct goals, basically. But one was a shit free kick, but there was one that he just absolutely.
He always does, though.
Yeah,
every week he'll cough up 1 or 2 goals in the back line.
I wouldn't say every single week, but
he's not a defender though.
He's not suited to those. He's not suited to those conditions.
Yeah, and
he's a very outside player.
Yeah, and I find sometimes the efficiency is a little bit of an illusion too, because it's easy if, Jesse, I'm just handballing it to you short, or I'm giving you a shitty little kick that goes just 15. Yeah, that's good. It went to the right guy. Yeah. But it's not, I guess I think my biggest problem is I never find that he's an influential aspect of a chain that leads to a goal. That kick out of defense that gets to the wing and then we get that overlap. I just don't think he's got it in him anymore. And I do think that, and it's really harsh to say, but I think he's a liability.
I think he was on the weekend. I don't know if he is completely, but I think he was on the weekend. Yeah. I think there was a couple of players who were liabilities on the weekend.
Jay Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're talking about defenders. So this is mixed discussion because both Kelly and McGrath were playing on Pickett at times. And this was a scenario where Pickett wasn't just starting in the forward 50 and just living there all day long. He was playing doing what Stringer does for us, where he was starting at the stoppages in the middle, play a little bit of time, and then he'd drift forward. Watching some of the game back today, there were passages of the play where Cozzy Pickett, who is arguably the most possession to impact player in their team, just paddock of space, because if it's, I don't know if it's instruction or if it's the way he plays, I assume it's instruction, but McGrath is always pushed up at the stoppage. Pickett's miles away. And then even times with Kelly where they're just giving him so much space. And sometimes the ball didn't go to him because it spilled out in different directions. But I was looking at being like, that is a goal straight away as soon as it gets to him. And they just, it wasn't, one of those jobs where Jake Kelly is just on a bloke all night long, and even McGrath at the same time. And they probably made the switch because they felt McGrath wasn't doing a good enough job in the first half, but just was not given the treatment that a player of that standard should be given, because he got away with it. And as a whole,
he was the difference really in the end.
As a whole, talking about treatment, as a whole, the lack of physicality from the entire side. Zach Merritt was the only one who laid a couple of nice bumps.
There were some good bumps, yeah.
And he's the smallest bloke on the side. Yeah, he's the captain, but there was a severe lack of physicality. And we go to selection. What did we take out? One of our most physical players.
Yeah, and that also brings the question, going into the Adelaide game, I'm assuming that we all agree that Jaden Laverty should come straight back in.
I guarantee it.
I mean, you can't just manage him because
they'll drop Heppel and play Laverty.
I don't know if it'd be Heppel.
Well, that was my question. Who goes out if you say it's not, hypothetically, if they say no, Heppel's fine, and the witchcraft that keeps him in the side remains, who is going out? Is it Kelly, or are they going to try and change the entire?
It's definitely
structure?
not Kelly. Scott's never going to drop Kelly.
Yeah, I could see Heppel being a sub or getting moved around the ground, or someone else just gets managed for the week. But like, it'd be a huge statement to omit him. Like, it'd be an incredible statement. Is that going to happen though? I highly doubt it. But if we're purely talking on a one-game performance, I think it warrants that. But
it's funny that we have this problem now that no one's getting injured, that they can make that easy swap.
Yeah.
Everyone looks pretty healthy. Everyone's in good shape physically. It is going to
damn the medical team.
They're finally, Crowey's curse has finally left. And now we've got this problem. We can't get rid of guys.
I know.
So it's going to be really fascinating what they do at selection.
Ben Hobbs needs to come in and play half forward this week. That's a
non-negotiable.
He's pretty much our best half forward. He really is.
Yeah.
Like based on current form, and previous form, should I say? If you compare him to all their other half forwards, he's played that role better than any.
I would say I would say that it'll be at least the one change I'm expecting is Guelphy out, Hobbs in. That is the one I'm predicting off the bat based on this week standalone. That is the one I expect, and if someone's getting pulled off the ground at 3/4 time, having had an absolute ripper of a day in the VFL, they're going to be most likely coming into the side.
And you'd think Hind would have to play either a full game or go back, because I think he's been sub 2 weeks in a row.
It's one or the other. And again,
Hind deserves to play. He's had a great year.
And again, we're talking about lack of run and carry in that game and lack of small options. And here you've got Langdon and who's the young guy? Windsor. Langdon and Windsor just burning Jones and Cox at times. And then you've got the fastest player on our side, who has played some good footy this season, has played on the wing, played half back, played a bit half forward, played a bit all over the shop, and he's just sitting there with his jacket on, just watching them run rings.
It's a nice jacket, though.
It is a nice jacket.
I have a controversial bad, and I'm probably going to be put on the cross for it, because a lot of people have him as the best player on the field, but I think that Ben Mackay had some really costly fumbles in the second half that led to direct goals. And he was great. I understand that. And a lot of people say you got to take the good with the bad, but he's very fumbly at times. And it doesn't, you look at May and Lever, and if we want, I don't know if Ben Mackay is that. I just don't know.
Got 3 coaches' votes.
Yeah, and look, he had the most intercepts on the ground. He had a great game, but he still had some really costly errors.
I was expecting you to say Jordan Ridley, to be honest, because I thought he played really well early on, but then he kind of drifted away. And I think there's, I don't think that Mackay Ridley, I don't think they've clicked yet. No. Like early on the season when Ridley wasn't playing, Ben Mackay was playing his best footy for the season. And obviously it was him and Laverty there, but I don't think that relationship has clicked yet. Obviously, they've played half a dozen games together, barely.
Yeah.
And obviously, the defensive coach will still be working it out. But that is like, long term moving forward. That is the pairing that we need to absolutely make sure that there is, some synergy there. To use a nice corporate word for you all. But did not look like that was the case on the weekend. Although I thought Ben was better than Rids was for the Nine. So.
But all in all, as I said, I'm not having a massive dig at him. I'm just saying that when you look at really good teams, you look at the way that Geelong defended and Melbourne defended against us, I just don't see us defending that way at the moment. And I don't think we've got the personnel in our defence.
Needs the grippo.
I mean, you look at our defence and we've got 3 defenders in there that weren't even drafted as defenders. 4. Ben Mackay wasn't drafted as a defender. And there's some people that just know how to defend, like they're born to defend. And we've trained a lot of people to understand how to defend. But good defenders they're clean and they've got composure. And we're all hoping for the Messiah, Zach Reid, to finally get on the park, because by by God, he's got both of those things.
Yeah.
And we in the wet in particular, or when there's an element of pressure, there's not many people in our defense that show the same abilities as those really good teams. And that's, there's a lot to work on, particularly after a loss like that over the weekend. But our defense week on week has proven that it has been slowly sort of getting less and less composed and going further and further downhill.
I think couple of points. I think in part, lack of midfield performance means that it's a harder job for them. I think that's fair to say. I think the reason Ben Mackay commanded such a high value figure is because there isn't a lot of those really good players. They're hard to come by. And thirdly, nothing says an episode of the Sash after a loss by putting all of our hopes and dreams on a kid who's played 3 games for the future. So there's nothing more Sash than us just being like, well, we're fucked, but there's this kid in the VFL, I swear, he's the one.
Get Zach Reed.
I'm still thinking Sardell Hawley will change things next year. I swear to God. That pace he can do off the halfback. I'm already excited about next year. I mean, I'm this close to giving up on this year. I'm serious.
No, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. I told you, we're winning this weekend. Doesn't mean we win finals. No, but we're going to win this weekend. I'll trust me. We'll be filthy on Monday come a loss, but I'm.
Well, that's almost black.
Can't lose the Crom at home.
No,
without Isaac Rankin, surely.
I mean, like I know we won that game in contentious circumstances, but we did batter them for the majority of the game. Just didn't kick enough goals. So, under the roof.
When we look mint.
Under the roof, a nice, clean, crisp, dry deck. Who knows? Maybe we'll get the 7-seater out of the garage and just roll it out onto Marvel where it does its best work.
Not a speck of rain
on it. Speck of rain on it. Yeah.
He'll kick 8.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, any more goods or bads, boys? Because I wouldn't mind moving into some hot takes. Anything from you? We've done a lot of bads. I like Jai Caldwell. It is Jai July, and he was still really good.
Yeah,
there was a pickup. I think in the first or third quarter where he did something
11 tackles.
Yeah, 11 tackles.
Yeah, he's a freak.
There was this pickup in the wet where he picked it and just hit like an absolute dart pass to someone. And I think Mert had an orgasm next to me. I think that was the sound that I heard. And as with the bay that I was sitting in, it was a very strange sound coming out of old Merty.
I'm very much looking forward to 2-3 years' time seeing Hobbs and Caldwell running through that midfield.
And Durham.
That's beast.
And Durham.
That's like full head. Durham only, it was the least... he attended the least amount of centre bounces out of all of our mids over the weekend. He was playing a very strange role. And another bad was just loving to play Clary into form over the weekend. How good was that? Just
after quarter time, he really
fucking Clayton Oliver just towel us up again.
Yeah,
just
the
one game of the fucking year.
Yeah. Anyway,
I would just say to finish it off on such a high note, the climax of my misery was knowing that at the 14-minute mark of the fourth quarter, we were 41 points down.
Yeah.
In wet weather.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that was we had that little run on. It was funny. There was a bloke sitting in front of me, and I forgot your name, sir. But he'd heard Mert and I talking. He was like, he recognised who we were. And then after Nick Martin had kicked his third in a row or something, he's like, if we win this, I'm on the pod on Monday. And I was like, sure, mate. Yeah, sure, you can come on. Well, it's never going to happen. The win, I mean. But yeah, the scoreline definitely flattered us, I think, because they took the foot off the pedal. Probably some of those young blokes didn't know how to totally ice a game. And then, suddenly with a bit of freedom and Nick Martin playing where he plays his best footy, we went off and...
I don't necessarily agree with them taking the foot off the pedal. I just think that we started playing a riskier brand of football, which was a big reason that, and similar against Geelong, in that last quarter, we went all out attack, taking on more risky kicks through the corridor. And against Geelong, we didn't really see the benefit of that. They really put us to the sword. And for the first 5 minutes of doing that, it cost us 2 or 3 goals and, was one of the reasons that we lost the game. But, I really was encouraged by that ball movement and that we were moving the ball a lot more like that in the first half of the year. And I'd really like to see us take more risks in the way that we did in that last quarter, because the net result was that it paid off in the end. And we've been playing a little bit too safe.
It's
with
risk-averse
our
football. Yeah, it's
recently.
risk-averse footy.
Yeah.
And, it's the risk-reward component. Yeah, does it mean that we're playing more of that potential, whoosher, all-out attack football, which is just transition footy? But
Was Worcester all out attack? I thought that was Matty Knights.
that was
Yeah,
Matty
that was
Knights,
Matty
actually.
Yeah.
But my point being, there's clearly something in that to say that brand of football does work, and it'd be intriguing to see, whether the coaches actually try and deploy something like that more moving forward.
We are at our best at pace, and I think you're right. I think we just need to maybe take the shackles off and play more, so much less uncontested football, and just go for it. Because I think you're right. The first half of the year when we were playing like that, we were at our best. Absolutely.
Boys, Friday night, back under the roof. Where do you like to sit at Marvel Stadium, Jesse?
I'm generally not watching the game. I'm just darting out in the Medallion Club balcony area. But if I do find my way back inside, it's usually level 2 from our good friends Ticketverse.
Have you sat Medallion Club yet, Rob?
I haven't. No, I'm a pauper.
Oh.
So, yes, just down in the members area.
Oh, maybe, might have to bring you up.
Please do.
Cushion seats up there.
I wonder if
la-di-da.
I wonder if I'll be sitting in front of the coach's box again this week.
You actually couldn't feel like more of a corporate fat cat sitting in the Medallion Club.
It's brilliant.
Is that collared shirt worthy?
No, it's
You
not
don't-
even.
You don't have to. Like, no trackies and thongs and stuff.
Oh,
but-
that's me out then.
yeah.
Dining room beforehand.
Yeah.
Have a beer.
Have a beer.
Oh, lovely.
In a glass. Lovely.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
Yeah,
And
dart on the balcony.
But anyway,
afterwards.
if you're doing some fabulous tickets to our games at Marvel Stadium, listeners, Ticketverse is the place to get that. They are running hot, as I've been told, and we've obviously got a few games coming up under the roof. This one, St Kilda, Gold Coast, and then the Swannies, I think, to wrap us up for the season. So get on them, and thanks to them for looking after us. Let's take a break, everyone. We'll come back for some hot takes after this. Welcome back, everyone. Part 2 of the show. Get ready for some hot takes. Hot takes is brought to you by our sponsors, Wax It. Lift your car care with Wax It. Do you like to look after your car, Jesse? What kind of car are you rolling with these days? Lambo? You rolling Lambo like Zach Merritt?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's a red Polo GTI, so it's my little Lambo.
Your
Yeah.
little Lambo?
But I typically don't, and I tell you what, I wouldn't mind something to help me look after my car better.
I'll get you a starter kit, mate.
Oh my god!
I'll get you a
What's
starter kit.
included in that?
I know you can clean your car. It's got some stuff to wipe it, rag, there's some soap, there's a whole bunch of things. There's something to clean the window by the look of it. Gee, that's pretty good.
Nice.
That's pretty good. And you get 10% off.
Newspaper, ciggies in there as well.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
Beautiful. Let's get stuck into the hot takes, everyone. Of course, we should play our little intro theme before we get into it. Here we go.
Thanks, Rob. It's that time of the week where we get some totally rational and well-adjusted opinions onto the pod. On the Sash, it's Hot Takes.
Hot takes.
It's good to hear that song, at least,
Dun, dun, dun.
in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, it's playing again. Sorry, everyone.
Do it again.
Don't get to hear it enough,
No,
that song,
go again,
in
go
the
again.
second half of the year.
No. Haven't heard it enough the last few weeks.
I would also just like to put it out there, if anyone can find out in the past 5 years what our win percentage has been in the second half of the season, I'd be very intrigued to know, because I think it would be close to 33%.
That's easy to do. That's just a quick Excel spreadsheet and just getting up AFL tables and just going.
There you go.
This is Rob on a lazy afternoon.
Yeah,
Put that on your agenda for Thursday and
Yeah.
spit it out. I'd be
yeah. I'll have a quick look.
intrigued to
I'll have a
know,
quick look.
because I don't think it'd be great.
Yep. Thank you to everyone who sent them through. Apologies to those of you who can't be played. There's a few of you who need to learn how to use your phone for audio quality. Because there was someone sent through a rap that it sounded like it was good, but I could barely hear it. So that person, think about how you're recording these. The people who scream into their phone, it just crackles. Also think about that. And to all of those who just sent them in saying this player can get fucked. Thank you, and I know how you feel, and I felt the same way on Saturday night, but yeah, probably not the best thing for this show if we just play half an hour of us telling various players to go fuck themselves. So we're going to leave that one, I think. But let's get into them. So this first one's from John. Thank you, John.
put the mouth guards in and get outside in the fucking wet, boys.
Yeah, mouth guards in, get out in the wet.
How
Get physical.
often do you reckon they trained in the hangar over the week? I mean, do you
don't
reckon
know.
they
Couldn't
ever
tell
they were seen out
I'm
in
sure
the
they
rain?
would. I'm sure they would have been at some point. I feel like they'd be foolish not to.
Nah, we're
Yeah.
boutique bombers.
Yeah,
We like it inside in the heat.
luxury cars, roofs over our heads,
Luxury dogs too.
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, would have been nice if we were a bit more well adjusted to the wet. This thing is, it did rain last time we played them in Adelaide, but having attended both games, I will say it rained considerably more on Saturday.
but it was also first half of the season, so you
Yeah.
know, you don't want to verse us first half of the season.
Yeah, but I don't know. I stood there on the Adelaide Hill and I didn't have to leave because of the rain. Whereas on Saturday night, like people were leaving from where they were sitting, where I was like, no, this is fine. Like we can deal. Anyway, next one is from the False Hope Club.
Okay. Another game, another false hope. We got into the winning this. Typical Essendon style. God. I'll tell you this right now. If I see Sam Draper having that type of game again where he dominates in the first quarter, then does absolutely nothing in the rest, I want a different ruckman because that is absolutely concerning what he did tonight. Not on. And I don't know why Brad Scott decided to get rid of Laverde in for Heppel. Oh, don't get me wrong. I love Heppel. He's a legend of the club. So he will always have my respect. But I didn't know why they decided to get rid of Laverde, a strong-bodied backman, for I don't want to say lanky. He's pretty strong too. But you know my point. Like, Jesus Christ. I'm not happy. I'm pissed. I'm pissed about this game. They need to pull something out their asses. Otherwise, if they lose against Freo, I think it's the week after. I think Adelaide would be a good win for us. But if they lose against Freo the week after, I'm not going to follow this team to be in the finals and win it. Simple as that. Oh well, go Plains.
You'll be back, brother. Don't worry. Even if we lose, you'll be supporting them.
Yeah.
I love our favourite thing as fans. Every time we want to have a dig at Heppel, we always have to do the now. He's a favourite of the club, and I love him.
I'm off him. Have been for years.
Yeah, that was a tame version of some of the other ones that was sent through. But you can sense the frustration in that gentleman there. And yes, certainly agree with you with Laverde. But again, hindsight is 20/20, as we know. Let's keep going. There's a lot of these that I've got to skip because they are never going anywhere. This is from Depressed Quinn. Thank you, Quinn.
We got a real inside mid. His name is Jack Caldwell. Our only good player in the wet. A few of the boys need a spell. Supporting the Dons can be cruel. Couldn't even beat the D's without Gone. Jones missed, Wright won't mark. Should've known we were never top four. Oh, when I look back now, Perkins seemed like a gun. It's a shame he's hot, 'cause he shouldn't be in the ones. The Dons are in a bit of strife. Only one thing to say to that, lads. We're shit.
Nice.
Oh, I haven't heard that one for a while.
I like that he didn't put the instrumental version of that on. And he kept the lyrics playing in the background.
Yeah, just sang over the top of it. Very good.
Yeah, that's very
Very good.
very creative.
I also love when the original song has like a word that has like 2 or 3 syllables and we'll just crowbar a 1 syllable word.
Yeah.
Just over the top. It's like, yeah, this will do. This will definitely do. This will definitely do. Let's keep going. This is from Biggest Dickest.
Massive missed opportunity, not by Essendon, but by myself for not jumping on the $2.50 odds that Melbourne were at when the ball was bounced in a wet weather game. Should have seen that one coming, felt it. I think most Essendon supporters would have felt it. You know, we haven't seen much consistency from Essendon for a long time, but one thing it is consistently shit when it's wet. I don't understand the team selection integrity. We had Laverde playing some unreal football, and if he was actually managed for being managed, then that's all right. But if Heppel came in, because he was just the ex-captain and they wanted to put him in the team, then it just doesn't make any sense to me. I think Perkins needs a run in the twos. I thought he could maybe bounce back after last week, but he just is off it at the minute. We've got to bring Setterfield in. And then if he drops off, maybe Parrish will be ready. He might play a VFL game, get some match fitness. It'd be nice to see him back in because we just look like shit. Peter Wright can't take a mark in the wet. Nick Cox, he probably should never play a wet game of football. Anyway, on to Adelaide next week. Was top 2, but now we're looking at not even finishing in the 8. So go Dons.
He's a happy man right there.
Jesus.
It's a real happy supporter.
I think I got to call my wife.
I'll tell you what, yeah, would have been a nice game for a fit and healthy Darcy Parish in the middle.
Would have been.
Very nice hands below his knees. Would have helped us maybe pick it up off the deck because that was definitely an issue.
It's definitely Setterfield weather too.
Yeah, yes. Good old hindsight. Don't we love it? Don't we love hindsight? Gotta love it. Next one's from False Flag.
I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know we don't belong in September.
Oh man, I love this podcast. Honestly, I am seriously in love with our audience. They're actually fully fucking stepping up.
Yeah.
This year, you've really stepped up, guys.
The same person also sent one through like a day early, like hours earlier. That was just like a rant, and then they also sent that one through. I was like, well, I'm going to play the song. So
Shit's getting grim.
yeah, very.
I
good.
wonder if he actually was playing the fucking whatever the accordion.
Yeah.
Surely not.
That was so good. I hope so.
Very good, very good. Let's keep moving. A few more to go. This one is from GC from the B. These are usually pretty good, these ones.
Doesn't get much worse than that, champions. I'll tell you what. Carlton lose, second spot up for grabs. Show me, Bombers, what you got. Turns out, not a fucking lot. 3 more wins out of 6 more rounds. Wet weather footy, we couldn't play the ground. No Gorn and Petrarca, we should have laid down the fucking smack. Instead, a red and black plane stuck on the tarmac. Terrible loss, an opportunity missed. Another loss in the wet. Man, I'm fucking pissed. Leaving the ground a frustrated fan. Can we still play finals? Bloody hope we can. Boys, I'm going to freaking start a GoFundMe for some sprinklers at the hangar. Go Plains.
There we go. There we go. Very good.
Poetry corner.
Corner right there. JC from the
He
B.
never ends with a rhyme. I don't understand why he does that.
I know. I think he just adds 2 bobs at the end.
He executes well, and then, like, come on, man, rhyme at the end.
It's a personal signature, Jesse.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think you can wrap it up better than that. That's just my opinion.
There we go. Jesse's not buying. Jesse's not buying. Let's see, what else have I got here? I got Paco is wacko. Here we go.
Yeah, boys, long time, first time. Just want to get a couple of things off my chest. I think we need to get rid of the term did some good things, because we have a bunch of mediocre players week in, week out who get overshadowed in our wins simply because they did a few good things. They need to be having good games consistently. We can't just keep saying they did a few good things and keeping them in the team. And I'm talking about Perker, I'm talking about Cox, I'm talking about Heppel, I'm talking about Kelly, I'm talking about Peter. We can't keep overshadowing the fact that they are just mediocre players. And the second thing is, I'd love to see a stat on how many tackles Package actually successfully breaks compared to how many he gets caught holding the ball. Because he thinks he's the strongest guy on earth, but he's just not that guy. And he needs to stop trying to break tackles because he gets caught every time and he kills us every single time. Anyways, boys, frustrating game, but we move on. Up the fucking plains.
Was he in a plane?
That was the NASA air tunnel, I think. Yeah.
Paco did get a big wacko by Stephen May, and this is a good representation of how pathetic we are with this edge because if a player got that treatment earlier in the season, you would have seen 3 Essendon players running up to May and pulling him off stringer and beefing him. Where's it gone, guys?
That's the second half of the year.
Where's it gone?
Stringer got done a lot of times. Like, I feel like, on a dry deck, he might just have that little bit of extra burst of speed to maybe get away from someone. But, like, he tried May, failed, tried McVee, failed. I think he tried the third person, he got done as well. It's like sometimes just got to go a bit faster.
I fucking hate McVee, man. I hate him. I don't even know him, and I hate him.
He's bloody good.
His name's fucking Judd.
He smashed us.
He
played like one.
And he's like better than all of our players, and he's played like fucking 10 games.
All right, this is a plank of wood. Thank you, plank of wood.
My team's gone cold and wondering why I put my TV on at all. The pouring rain clouds up the G, and I can't see it all. But even if I could, we'd still be shit. But the win we had last week, it reminds me that it's not so bad. It's not so bad. Dear Brad, you were a plant.
Oh, you keep going.
Oh, I love that he went into that bit though. You are a plant. I want a longer version now, please.
Yeah, we need an extended edition of that. God,
that's phenomenal.
Very funny. Very funny.
It is bad. It was Collingwood's worst pressure rating game, so it wasn't very good.
I just hate it every time we beat a side, that side then just falls apart. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, that wasn't that good.
It kind of has been like that, though.
I know.
Yeah, we were at the start of the Giants' fall, and the Pies have been shocking for about a month now. So, yeah, we can't ever get a critical win without it, being just an average shit win.
It'd be pretty interesting if the season ends and we finish 8th. And every team from 9 to 18 that we've beaten.
It probably would be. Like,
it could happen. I mean, Gold Coast need to kind of get their act together and get into the 8. But yeah, anyway, boys, last one to wrap things up. A favourite of you all. This is The Dish.
When the sun shines, we'll play much better. We fold like paper in wet weather. We couldn't even defend, couldn't even stick it out till the end. Now that it's raining more than ever, we've become softer than a feather. I hope Brad buys us some umbrellas. We need to play under our umbrellas. Alice, under our umbrellas. Alice, A. Well, I was very disappointed once again, fellas, because as per usual, we turned to mud in the mud. And it wasn't even funny, Dad. You shouldn't have been there. I just want to say one thing to the Melbourne Football Club that have come in here and derailed Jesse's prelim train. I hope you boys didn't fill up on cheese, because guess what, fellas? You can eat this ass.
The train has been decommissioned. We actually got pulled for capital raise funding by the board.
It's replacement buses from here and in.
Yeah, they have suggested replacement buses to the funeral. We're sort of yet to route the route, but there is still a pitch to some investors to get it recommissioned. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks.
Mike, he's at the ready.
Yeah, we're pitching hard to the board over the next few weeks.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. Very good, very good. The Dish. Always a good laugh with that one. Maybe Lurker is Ollie Keogh, because I feel like Lurker seems to send them in when we win. I haven't had a Lurker on a loss for a while, so
we got no Rory. We've got no Jackie. We've got no Beck.
No Garrett this week.
No Garrett.
I think everyone's flat. That's why.
Guys and girls, step it up. We miss hearing from you, so come on.
Yeah. There obviously, like I said, there were a lot of people that I appreciate it and I listen to them all, but for either audio quality reasons or just the amount of F's and C's directed at players, I was like, come on, guys. It's funny when we tell Collingwood to get a dog up here, but, I can't play some of these things.
Yeah, no.
Definitely not. You know who you are. You all know who you are. I wonder how many people send through hot takes after a game in like a fit of rage and then forget that they did it. And then on Monday it gets played and they're like, oh my God, I said that? Oh.
Surely.
Yeah.
No, I think they know what they did.
Wouldn't be surprised. You know what you did. Fellas, final thoughts, Ryan?
Look, let's hope this is just another one of those hurdles we've just clipped with the back of our heel and we can get on another good run leading into the finals, but not holding my breath and devastated as usual. Go Bombers.
Jesse?
You know, I just don't want us to play at Marvel anymore. I'm sick of it. When's the contract end? Like I'm off Marvel. And I don't know what it means for us, but, you know, can we just not be fucking soft, Essendon? Please don't be fucking soft in the last 6 rounds. Please. Please. Yeah. Like, I can't handle it mentally. I just can't. All right?
I'll say one thing. If, let's say, if we get the results required to play in finals, the last 2 games of the season are the perfect tune-up to show if you're actually in it to win a final.
Yep.
Like, we're not going to come in having rolled a North or a West Coast or whoever. We're going to come in playing the premiership favourite and then a team who's probably almost going to be one of the premiership favourites in the final round. And if you win one of those, there's going to be some belief there. And if you come close and then you end up playing someone else, you might go, okay, we might be, you know, in with a chance here. But, you know, I think for me, my prediction from here is that we're going to bank a few wins these next few weeks, and then we're going to come into those final 2 games and find out if we're up to scratch or not.
We just have to. I mean, I feel like we have to beat interstate teams at home. We just have to, and we've got 3.
Yeah.
4. We've got 4 interstate teams at home and St Kilda. Like, really.
It's a real shame we're playing. I mean, it's good to play another game at the G.
Yeah.
But it's a real shame we're playing Freo at the G.
But Freo suck at the G, so it's probably better.
We suck at the G.
Yeah, but they suck worse at the G than us.
Didn't they beat someone at the G this year? I swear they did.
Look, that's going to be the best.
Richmond? Maybe they beat Richmond at the G. That was it.
I thought they beat... Oh, no, Melbourne was in bloody...
in Alice Springs, yeah.
I don't think Freo's won at the G for like 100 years. So.
No.
I think Freo's going to be our best test.
They beat Richmond by 54 points. So, but I don't know. I would feel a lot more confident playing them under.
They've beaten us at Marvel though.
Yeah, but again,
Optus Stadium's a pretty big oval too, so it's not like it's going to really freak them out being at the MCG. It's going to be a really good test. I think they're going to probably still be in great form by then, so that is going to be huge. That we can probably beat Adelaide and we can probably beat the Saints and even probably get the Suns at Marvel. But that Freo game, that's a big one.
They've got such a good spine.
That's when the train's being recommissioned if we beat Crom and St Kilda, and if we beat Gold Coast, the board is giving me confidence to put the train back on the tracks.
The Freo one though, that's the signing of the funding. That's locked in.
Yeah. What's the song that has the "If my train falls off the tracks, pick it up." Yeah. Okay. If we win the next 2, someone has to give me that song.
Yes.
In the hot takes, please. That's a request.
Yeah.
That's a request.
Back that.
Is it Freo after St Kilda or is it Gold Coast? I'm getting confused. What's the order?
It's Crom, St Kilda,
Freo,
Gold Coast.
Gold Coast. Yeah.
So next month is just massive.
Do you know what I'm actually really hanging out for? Is that the day before the Freo game, Essendon VFL are playing Preston round the corner from where I live.
Nice.
And I'm going to take the little fella down who has no effing clue what's going on. I'm going to make him sit through an hour of VFL footy until he cries and wants to get home. It's going to be great. I can't wait.
You're a good dad.
Can't wait.
Signing him up for a life of misery.
Yeah. Anyway, I was going to tell you a story, but it has a photo attached and it's not good podcast, so I think it's a great point to end the show. Listeners, thank you as always for supporting the show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for viewing. Thanks to our premium members, of course. If you do want to listen to Thursday's show, you can sign up to become a premium member. You can find the link in the show description or on our social media pages. $5 a month, you get an extra show every single week during the footy season. Thanks, of course, to our new sponsors, Wax It, Andrew and the gang over there. Car care, get around it. Thanks to Derek, he's back from his holiday. So I'm going to get my files tonight and there won't be a problem, which is going to be great, and the show won't be late. But everyone, thanks very much. Up the plains. Bye.